G'day guys, Matt here from Not in the Manual. I finally decided to buy some of these sexy buttons. So I've been resisting buying them because of the price and because I'm really just not that keen to have something writing data to the CAN bus circuit of the car. You know, it's just something I wanted to avoid. Like a lot of these little extra display screens where you can do the rear seat heaters and things. So I've just, really just resisted that. But anyway, look, I thought I would give these a go. I haven't really heard any bad reports about these yet. So yeah, let's see what's inside the box. So I got the 4-button version because it was on special. And really, when you added up the cost of getting the 2-button version and then adding some buttons, this was a lot cheaper. It actually comes with a couple of adapters and things which I don't need. So they're the buttons themselves. And you can see they've got the sticky back to them. And we have some little stickers that we can put on the buttons. And what else have we got? So here's some white clip-on covers we can put instead of the black around the buttons, the surrounds. It comes with the Y connector for tapping into the CAN bus circuit down in here behind the armrest console, the center console. It comes with a tool for prying open dash panels and not damaging them. And it comes with a OBD adapter. Now, Sexy Buttons call this the commander. So this will talk to the Sexy Buttons and transmit their commands into the CAN bus circuit of the car. Now the app talks to this and helps you program the buttons and assign the commands to each button. Now the good thing is I can actually use this for Scan My Tesla as well. So that was the other reason that was stopping me from buying these Sexy Buttons, because I knew it had this OBD tool and I wasn't sure if it was compatible with Scan My Tesla. So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying this out. You can do things like, you know, dial the regen braking back or up the regen braking. You can precondition the battery for fast charging without navigating to a supercharger. You can put a button on the back console here to do the rear seat heaters. And there's a lot of different functions. So I'm going to run through those in a sec. But yeah, this is what's in the box. And yeah, I'm excited to test this out. Okay, so I've already got my Y connector in here that I've been using for Scan My Tesla dongle. So we've got the Sexy Buttons dongle here, OBD dongle. And I'm just going to plug that in where I had my Scan My Tesla dongle plugged in. We're seeing some lights coming on here, which means it's powering up okay. So we'll move to the app. Right, so I've been running with the Sexy Buttons app for a few weeks now since I shot that first video. I wanted to do this next part after I'd had a bit of experience using it and looked at the value of the different functions of the app. I have done a screen record here, which I'll overlay on the video, and we'll run through the app here and just look at the interface and everything here. So looking at the screen, you can see this is, when you first start the app, this is the screen you have. You can see I've got 4 buttons set up here. I've got open glove box, regen, so backing the regen off, rear seat heaters. So I've got a button in the back that the kids can press to bring the rear seat heaters on without me having to go through the screen or front passenger to go through the screen. And that works quite well. And then I've got battery precondition here set up as well. So we can just customize things here. We can set those buttons to a few different things, and you can have numerous buttons there as well. I think you can run up to 8 different buttons. Now these are quite easily changed. So you can see open glove box. I just click on the button there. And then we've got all different things here. So there is the single press, and then you can do double press or long press on the buttons as well. So depending on if you don't want that button to be accidentally triggered. So you've got a couple of different there. I've just got them all set to the single press. So your first tab here you can see is open. And then we can have open glove box, open trunk, frunk. And then we've got each of the doors. You can set a button to open each of the doors. We can do all 4 doors. So you can set the button there. I've got it set to glove box, and I'll demonstrate that later. We then have acceleration. Now this will not give you plaid acceleration if your car doesn't already have it. It only toggles what your car already has, so it doesn't give you any extra modes, any extra power. So you can see for this car, it will let me have chill or sport. That's all that it will let me have. You can leave it to toggle, where it will just toggle between chilled and sport. Sport is just standard. So in this car, I have chilled or standard acceleration. If you have any of these other functions, we've got plaid as well. It will be applicable to your car. But for this car here, I can have it set to toggle, and it will just toggle between chill and standard. The next one we have is regen braking. So we can just got some presets here if you just want 25%, 50%, 0%, 75. This is what I think people will find one of the most useful ones. So I've got it to loop down -25. I've got another button set to that, so it just loops down and keeps taking 25% off. And when you get down to 0, when you press it again, it will take you back to 100%. So that just toggles through the different strengths of regen. Now I've got a family member that feels a little bit car sick from the regen. And even if I'm really gentle with it, it's a weird sensation. So being able to dial back that regen makes it a more comfortable ride for, if you have someone in the car that gets car sick, regen braking actually can give them, can be a bad sensation for them. So it's quite handy to be able to turn that down. If you are driving in sort of snowy, icy conditions, I think the car has a bit of an auto snow mode. I can't vouch for that because I don't live in that sort of climate, but I think it will dial the regen back if the outside temperature is below a certain point. Feel free to comment to clarify that, but what this allows you to do is to back that regen off if you find the back wheels are slipping. So it may not be a temperature thing. You may find you have to drive through on a slippery surface, and this enables you to back off that regen. You can put the car into chilled mode, dial the regen back, and it'll make it a lot easier to drive on that slippery surface if you have to. So there's a lot of options there you can see for regen. Next one we have is some autopilot settings. I think it's pretty easy to just double tap that gear stalk to do it anyway. I don't think that's really a big deal. You can here have autopilot hands on. So I haven't tried this yet. It's if you, so you can mount the button to the steering wheel. This action will be considered a hands on the wheel trigger and will dismiss the nag. This feature might not work outside the USA. I haven't tried this yet. I don't actually find the autopilot nag an inconvenience. I think it's quite good, and if you're paying attention to the road, it won't nag you as often anyway using that cabin camera. I haven't tried that yet, but a few of these things here I just haven't tried because I don't think that they would be useful. You can just press try here for a lot of these functions. So if we have, let's just say open, we've got glove box, you can press try and the glove box will open. So you can actually use the app to do a lot of these functions. It allows you to test these out before you program that to the button. So we'll go back here. So media, volume up, volume down. I mean, if you just wanted to give people in the back control over that, then you could put some buttons there. You could program some to play, pause, and go to the next song. So I think that's probably good for passengers because you've got all those controls at your fingertips when you're the driver. Charging, charge port open, battery preconditioning. That's the one I leave. That's the one that I have programmed. So if you're going to a fast charger that is a non-Tesla, then you can precondition your battery and heat it up, and it works really well. I'm going to demonstrate that later in the video, so you'll get to see that there. And that's a feature that a lot of people have been calling out. Now, if you do a lot of charging at non-supercharger chargers, and you do a lot of long distance driving, then this would just be worth it purely for that function because you can just heat that battery up and it works really well. So even if you're in a super cold climate and you did want to heat your battery up, you could use that to warm your battery up. Now that is going to use a lot of energy to do that, but it would be a quick way of heating your battery up. It's going to heat that up. It's going to precondition that battery a lot faster than what you could do with the normal preconditioning. So that's quite good, and I'll demonstrate that later. Mirrors, tilt, fold, dim mirrors. So you can, there's a few functions there if you want to dim the mirrors if they're not dimming. I don't know. A lot of these things I think are great, but I'm not sure that I would use fold mirrors if you were living in a city with very tight, you had to fit through very tight spaces a lot of the time. That could be quite handy to have a fold mirrors button instead of you having to go through the screen to do that, or look at the screen and navigate through there. That would be quite good. For me, that they're not really features I would use. Heated seats, this could be quite good if it's for the rear passengers. I think it's quite good, and you can actually, every individual seat you can set to toggle off. You've got the rear left, rear center, rear right, on off, front rear, front left. Now you can toggle all rear. I've got that set on. So with toggle all rear on, you can set it to level 3, 2, 1 and off, and it just scrolls through all of those. And the button actually has a light on it to flash which mode that the seats are set to. So I've got one of those in the back, and the kids really like that because they can just change the seat setting levels. It's not that great if you've got one person that wants the heaters up to, seat heaters up to full, and then one that wants it on low, but you can deal with that on a case-by-case basis. So that's quite a good one. I've got one of my buttons set to that. Seat cooling, I don't have in this car, but if you had seat cooling, you can set the buttons to do that. We've got some climate control. We can have the rear fan on and off, fan speed up and down. I think this would be good again if you wanted people to be able to have control over some of these functions in the rear. Defog, defrost. I think a lot of these features are pretty easily found within the screen without you having to take your eyes off the road for at all. You can have them set there as the quick access buttons at the bottom of the screen. Rear window, recirculate, toggle on off fresh air or recirculate. So all this climate control, air conditioning toggle on and off. You may find a use for these. I don't really find a use for them myself. Headlights. So I think here it's got some special features here for the yoke steering wheels. If you've got fog lights, so this tells you can toggle all of these things here. Then we have wipers. So you can just have your wipers there. You can increase. You can half decrease. So I think this is quite good, seeing as the auto wipers aren't that great. This allows you to change the speeds by half if you're not happy with where the speeds are at the moment. With the manual wipers, you've got the option now of having them go at an in-between speed. This is if you've got a tilting touchscreen. That would be in the Model S or the X, I guess. Stopping mode, so this is creep, hold and roll. Yeah, I don't know, once again, I think it's nice to have that there, but it's not something I would use. Traction control. Now don't think this is something here you can just turn off your traction control and go and do some burnouts. You don't have that option here. This actually puts it into like a snow mode, and it calls it off-road mode or snow mode, and it actually comes up with that label on the screen of the car. Now a lot of these other functions you don't actually see it. So the heated seats, you turn them on, you don't see them show up on the screen of the car. So if it's not turned on through the screen with a lot of these functions, it won't actually show you that they're on or off there. You can turn on slip start, which you already have, and this allows you to now toggle through the off-road, slip start, then back to normal. So it's, yeah, once again, it's not designed here to then let you just go and do burnouts. That's purely an off-road. So this feature here backs off the regen and backs off the acceleration, and it allows, it just should give you a better control of the car in snow and mud, slippery conditions. Accessibility, you can set these up to control your indicators. Accessibility, so you've got turn signals, we've got hazard lights. You can set it up as the voice command button. That'd be handy voice commands for a passenger. So at the moment, voice commands are done by the button on your steering wheel. You can set for a very short honk of the horn. You can set one press gives you a double honk of the horn. So imagine if you're an Uber driver or a taxi driver, that would be such a good button to have. You can do a short honk, a long honk, short left turn signals. So there's quite a few options in here. Short right hand turn signals. So there's a few options here. Some of these things you can't do yourself at the moment. So I think that would be quite handy for some people if you're a professional driver. Lock, unlock. So this is to lock all the doors. You can child lock the back doors. So that could be handy to someone there. Now others, there are just some random things in here. You can do a thank you, so it will flash the hazard lights once as a thank you to other drivers. You can do a hazard light flash 2 times to say thanks to someone for letting you in, or you can get it to flash the hazards 3 times as a nice gesture on the highway or in the city. It says here to thank someone. So if you have a particular thing that you do in your area or your country where you live, you can program the button to just do that for you. It's a single button press. It's going to be a lot easier than trying to do that with your hazard button. So we can turn the interior lights on and off, and we can activate the park brake. So I think that's something that's pretty easy to do as well if you're a driver in the car. So not a big deal. Track mode, if you have track mode in your car, I tried that. Even if I try that now, it doesn't put my car into track mode. And it's probably a thing where you need to be near a racetrack. I haven't used track mode in a Tesla before, so I'm not sure how that all works. But that's it. That's all the things that you can program these buttons for. Now I'm going to run through and just show you this in practice. And I'll also show you back here. Actually, I'll show you this now before we go through and look at some of the buttons. You can set a dashboard screen. Now, I've been using this and it's quite handy because one thing I need to tell you is when I first thought this, I thought, great, I can use the one OBD adapter for Scan My Tesla and this app, but that's not the case. It only works with the iOS version and it broadcasts a Wi-Fi signal from the adapter that you have to connect to. So it's not that great. I don't use the iOS version of Scan My Tesla. If I did, it would probably be pretty handy. But I think what I will do long term, I will set up a second OBD adapter, Y adapter, and I will run my OBD adapter that I use for Scan My Tesla and the commander for Sexy Buttons as well, and have them both plugged into the CAN bus circuit. And I think that will work quite well. But for the time being, short term, this little dashboard here gives you a lot of data. You can see we've got battery temp, battery inlet, powertrain temperature, rear stator. I don't have a front stator, so we can see the temperature of my rear motor basically is the outer part of the motor, the stator. It's giving me the temperature of the coolant flowing through there. We have some individual cell. It gives me the middle cell voltage, and it tells me the imbalance between the voltage of the highest cell and the lowest cell. Then we have some battery capacities here. Now this is showing the degradation feature. Now this is a non-realistic degradation figure because it's using the initial capacity of the battery, which isn't the rated capacity of the battery. So we're seeing that nominal new of 55.1, and that's not really a figure that you should use for degradation of the battery, which I've got another video that I've gone through that in. So it's more like 52.5 with this car. So after 2 years and 30,000 kilometers, my nominal full 51.6 as opposed to 52.5 rated capacity. That's really hardly any degradation at all. So that's quite good. It gives me most of the info that I would look at in Scan My Tesla anyway. So I haven't really used Scan My Tesla for a little while. But you can also see here on the dashboard there's some other areas. We've got speed, we've got indicators, we've got regen levels. So when I toggle that with my regen level button here, you can see it drops that regen level down and toggles that down to no regen at all, and then goes back up to full regen. We have battery percentage, we've got rated kilometers left, and that's the same as what shows up on the dashboard of the car, up next to the little battery symbol. And then we've got here throttle percentage. That's what this all is around the outside there. And on the left here we have kilowatts, power going to the motor. Or power from the battery, that is. So where the battery's energy is going back in down here and becomes a minus kilowatts, or we've got kilowatts coming out up the top. So that's quite a good little dashboard. Now, what I'll do is I'm just going to give you a rundown of some of the features, and I will actually show you this dashboard and how I mount it in my car. Okay guys, just a couple more things here I forgot to mention. The little plug at the back here called the commander that the buttons communicate with, it plugs into the OBD port. It also has some other functions here. There are some other things here. It's under the commander settings. So this doesn't involve the buttons at all. So these are some automations that you can have with that commander plugged into the OBD port. So if you have a look at the screen capture here, you'll see I've gone into the commander settings here. We've got door handles, kick down, auto off, and presenting doors. And then there's also this scan my Tesla thing. We'll just go through each of these things quickly, and then I'll just demonstrate one of the functions. So door handles, you can set it so that a pull on the door handle of the car for a length of time can operate some things like unlocking your charge port and opening your frunk. So instead of you having to get into the car to then pop the frunk, you can use the door handles to do that. And that can be a bit easier than trying to dig your phone out and do that. It could be faster as well. So I've been playing around with that. It's not perfect, but you can see I've got some settings here. You can have the front left door handle, the front right door handle. You can see I've ticked that. The rear left handle, and you can set it so it's only if the car is unlocked. So you can also set it so that it's a half press or a long pull on the handle. I've got it set so that it's a long pull on the handle. I couldn't get the half press to work. And then you can also set the duration down here you can set it up to 10 seconds. So I've just got it set for 3 seconds, and we'll demonstrate that in a second. Kick down, it doesn't really affect my car, but if you have a car with, actually it probably can if I've got my car on chilled. So when it sees the accelerator pedal go past a certain position, it automatically puts it into the sport mode or plaid mode or standard mode and takes it out of chill. So that if that's applicable to your car. So you've got a couple other settings there for that. Auto off, so you can force manual high beam. So when you flick in autopilot, it's got some things here to explain it. I haven't used this yet. I don't see a need for it. I'm quite happy to use things how they are. But you got the option for auto wipers to turn off. So this is when you activate autopilot. It will automatically see that you've activated autopilot, and it will flick these off for you automatically. So I haven't tried that yet. To be honest, I just haven't thought of it. So I will test that feature out at a later date. But the purpose of this video is just to show you what this is capable of. And then we have presenting doors. So you can get it to pop the driver's door open as you walk up to it. And it talks about walking through the different proximity zones. You have open the door if you're passing through the closest proximity zones. So it will wait until you're a lot closer to the car. Complex, it'll only open the door if you're passing through all the proximity zones at once with the car, the Bluetooth proximity zones around the car. And it will see your phone. Now, I've got this set up on a phone that I don't carry on me, so I haven't tried this out yet, presenting doors, but yeah, it's there to be used. You also have the option of this Scan My Tesla support, but as I mentioned previously in the video, it's only for the Apple or the iOS version of the app, which I don't use. It's not as nice as the Scan My Tesla in the Android version. So that's something there, and I'm just not sure about the security. It's then creating a Wi-Fi hotspot with the commander, and that is always on. So I don't like the idea of that. I'm going to stick to. I've set up 2 OBD ports so I can use Scan My Tesla on the Android phone, and I can also connect to the S3XY Buttons. So I've set up 2 OBD ports there, and I've got both of those OBD port dongles plugged in, so I can use both of them that way. But if you want to use that way, it's there. So we've got some other settings here. They're all pretty self-explanatory. Safe Bluetooth connect, so that is a security thing I would leave on. You don't want people to be able to just connect to the Bluetooth and actually connect to your car. So I think it's pretty good to have that connected. And then yeah, there's a couple of other things here which are pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so walking up to the car here now, if I pull on the door handle and hold it for 3 seconds, you can see the frunk opens up. So that's a bit easier than pulling the phone out and using the open frunk command in the app, or going into the car and using the screen. All right, we're just going to do a quick demo of the buttons. So I've got 3 set up here for the demo, and I've got 1 button back here which is for the rear seat heaters. I might just bring that forward and put that here as well. So that's the good thing about these buttons, is you can just unstick them. I don't know how many times that will work, but I've shifted them around a few times and it seems to stick quite well. I've got the 4 buttons set up here. I've got 1 set up with the glove box. That works quite well. One thing you need to be careful though is that will bypass your PIN code. So if you have PIN code access to your glove box, it won't ask you for a PIN code. That will just bypass it. So you need to be careful about where you put that button. Might be nice to hide that somewhere. This one here I've got is regen. So if we press that one there, we can see the regen backing off, and we can go down to no regen at all. And this is the regen loop button set up. So press it again and we've got full. Now I'll give you a drive demo of that and just show you what that's like. This one I've got set up as battery preconditioned. So if we press that, this little display comes up with battery precondition. Now we'll talk about some other things here first. We can put on the rear seat heaters, and this will toggle all 3 on. Press it again, you can see it drop down to 2 bars on the heat. Press it again, it drops down to 1 bar. Press it again and it's off. So that's quite good. The kids use that in the back seats. It toggles all 3. You can have 1 individual button for each of the 3 seats. No problem if that's what you'd like to do. That's what I've got set up here. Now we can see the battery precondition is working. I am not navigating to a supercharger. You can see here, not navigating. That is preheating the battery. Now look at the battery inlet. We'll see that climb up. I can hear you can see the rear stator has jumped up to 52 degrees, 53. So it's using the rear stator, and I can hear the heat pump going crazy. So that is also, if we scroll up, we can look at the rear inverter, 2.5 kilowatts. So it's powering the stator of the rear in a phase that won't drive the car, and it's using that to circulate the heated coolant from the motor through to the battery. And so it's using a combination of the rear motor and the heat pump at the moment. Once I start driving, then the motor is just going to get warm anyway. So we can see, look at that battery inlet climb up. That's going to climb up to like 60 degrees or so. We'll keep an eye on that because I just want to go for a drive now, and I'll show you the regen and give you a little bit of a demo of this dashboard. You can also see here I changed this 1 button to the white surround. That's easily just clips apart, and you can replace the battery in these as well. Just a bit of a demo there. So yeah, let's go for a drive and have a look. Okay, just show you quickly here. This is where I have the little dashboard in my Android phone set up, the dashboard from the S3XY Buttons app. It's in quite a good spot. I mean, I don't need it because I'm really happy with the speed display on here in the car. I find that quite fine to use. But if you're still learning how to drive the car and you want to have a little bit of a dashboard there, And you can turn all this information off. You don't have to have that information there, but I think it's handy if you're using the button. So we can see that the preconditioning is active. Now, a lot of the functions of this button don't show up on the main display. They will work in the background. You won't see the regen limit. You won't see that preconditioning show up on the main display. All right, so I'm just going to do a little drive here. So you can have a look at, while I got my camera set up here, the battery has been preconditioning, and you can see now that the battery inlet is 56.9 and battery temp has gone up to 36. So it's almost finished preconditioning in that 10 minutes. And that battery will get to about 40 degrees and stop preconditioning. And that's pretty standard. That's the same as the navigating preconditioning for fast charging. So this would be quite handy if you're going to a non-Tesla supercharger. It's one button press, precondition, press the button again to turn it off. And what we might do now is just have a look at the regen braking. Now you'll see if I back that off to 50%, it takes a couple of seconds to kick in, but I'm now taking my foot off the brake and that's not working. It's really quite weird because I'm so used to the single pedal driving that's pretty strange. It's a pretty strange sensation. So you can see there, backing off my pedal, I'm now going to have to use the foot brake. So that's quite weird. So what we can do now is back that right off to 0. Okay, I now don't have any regen braking at all. Now I've tried this out already. This car, because of the weight, you never realize it because you've got the regen braking. So I've backed my foot off the accelerator pedal now, and this car would just coast forever. No regen braking whatsoever. If that is something you don't like about this car, then this is the way to get rid of that regen braking. The standard brakes are not very good. If you're used to good braking with an ICE vehicle, yeah, you're not going to have the same sort of braking here with this because it's an electric actuator instead of a vacuum style brake. So yeah, that's a bit different. So yeah, you can see here now, yeah, it's quite weird. So yeah, this all really works. It doesn't show anything on the screen here, and we can just put that back on because I don't like that sensation at all. So hopefully that was all clear in the overlaid screen record of the app. But it's actually quite a good dashboard. I get a lot of information there, same as what I would get from Scan My Tesla. Not as comprehensive, but you do get to see how many kilowatt hours you've got remaining. And it would be quite a good screen for long distance driving. So I'm going to try and run this in parallel with Scan My Tesla and see if I can get both of them running together. I'll need to put another Y connector in there to give me another OBD port. Yeah, so look, overall, I'm pretty happy with how these sexy buttons are working. They do everything that they say they will. Pretty easy to program. If you can get over the initial cost, I'll put the cost up here on the screen. I bought it direct from the supplier in the US. It was shipped from the US, so I had the shipping to Australia from there. It's enhanced auto, so yeah, I think it's definitely worth it if you do a lot of long trips and you're charging at non-Tesla superchargers, non-Tesla fast chargers. It would be quite worth it. Or if there are some features of the car you don't like the not being able to turn off the regen braking. It does do everything it said. I think some people that like to have that tactile button feel will be pretty happy with that. You can shift them around and move them wherever you want. You can have one hidden behind the screen here if you want a glove box one there or something out of sight. But just remember, it is not going to give you functions that you don't already have on the car. It's not going to give you heated seats if you haven't paid for them. It's not going to give you any sort of power boost. It's not going to disable traction control and allow you to just do burnouts. So you really need to go into it thinking that. I had a couple of issues when I first started using it. I had the horn would just sound randomly, but there was a firmware update for the Sexy Buttons, and that seemed to solve that. I haven't had it happen since, and yeah, I've been pretty impressed with it so far. It's definitely a great enhancement for your car, and I think definitely can consider it. And I think a lot of the complaints that I have read online about the Teslas, I think this will solve a lot of your complaints of things that you don't like, especially with the battery preconditioning. I think that's one of the biggest things is being able to precondition that battery without navigating to a supercharger. Now, you may just want to precondition your battery and heat it up in a super cold climate just so you can get full regen braking. And that would be another reason why you could set this up as well. It's going to use a lot of energy to do that, but if that, you know, if that's a plus for you, or you see that as a good feature, then I think it's definitely worth getting. So guys, that's my review of the Sexy Buttons. I think they're great, and bit of a disclaimer: they haven't paid me. They wouldn't even know that I've bought them. They weren't sent to me for free or anything. I just bought them myself. I decided to buy them myself. They haven't emailed me, so yeah, this isn't a paid review. This is just an honest review from someone who has paid full price for these things. So guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you next one.